All right, let's go.
What is up, Wizards fans? This is Believe in Wizards. I'm Matt Modderno. He's Jahadi White. Wes Unseld Jr. is now not the coach of the Washington Wizards, so we've got that to talk about. I guess, Jahadi, before we get too far into it, just what was your initial reaction to seeing the news that Wes was moving over to the front office?
I didn't think it would happen yesterday.
Mm.
I didn't think it would happen the day it happened. Was that yesterday?
Yeah, it all runs
Yeah.
together, but yeah.
Yeah, everything run together. I didn't think it would happen yesterday. I actually thought he would finish the season out.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I thought he would finish the season out. So, but I knew that he wouldn't be the coach next year.
Mm.
So, that the fact that it did happen yesterday, I wasn't shocked.
Yep.
But it caught me off guard. But I wasn't shocked about it at all.
Do you think it was right? I mean, you've been in these locker rooms. You're the only one who can tell us. Like, did it just seem like it was time for a fresh voice here?
It was. It was definitely time for a fresh voice. And then then again, it gets to a point that how much are you going to lose your players?
Yeah.
How much on display are you going to show as an organization that your coach has lost the ear of the players?
Right.
Right. Because I think what happens is it's hard to keep reflecting that to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens, everybody starts talking about it. They start talking about it in sports shows, sports talk shows, TV, and that doesn't help you in the process of let's go out to get new players, and they were like, well, I feel like the coach there has lost his players. Why would I want to go to that organization?
Right. Yeah, I think their comments echo that. We'll get into some of the quotes here in a minute. Just first, we're brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard half and halves, hard peach teas. I'm sure Wes probably could use a couple after the week he's had, so hopefully we can hook him up a little bit. And brought to you by BetOnline. It's the number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for your favorite sports, boxing, golf, UFC. Could probably bet on props of who the next Wizards head coach is. That's maybe worth looking into. But yeah, it's wherever you want to go for all your NBA related bets you want to make. You can use your mobile device, your website, whatever you need to do. BLEAV for our 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Jahadi, you said it about Wes, and shout out to our guy Joe Swam in the chat here for always reminding me of this quote of yours, because it's perfect, I think. Wes knows his shit. His shit might just have to go through someone else's mouth. I think everything that Michael Winger and Will Dawkins said in the press release or press conferences after the fact kind of echoed that of like, we know Wes is a smart guy. He made the organization better. It's just first of all, they said the multiple conversations they've had with him about this just made it seem like it was time. So I think this was probably something in the works here for a while. And that really just seems what it is. Like, we think he's a smart dude, but he's just not reaching the players at this point.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell how they feel about Wes. Mm-hmm. You can tell the impact he makes on the organization, on the people there every day.
Yeah.
His basketball IQ, his IQ in general, his basketball IQ, you can tell like they respect his mind. They respect him as a person. They respect his mind.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just the messenger.
Yep.
It's not the message.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this has come down to a point where it's the messenger, and no, it may be a beautiful package out the door, but it's not. Instead of being FedEx, it's DHL dropping it off. I just thought DHL. I might not ever, open that package, but it's still what's inside is still the same diamond. Yeah. So just somebody else got to hand off the diamond to the players.
Winger said specifically, we're a better organization because of Wes. Our players are individually better because of Wes. In the 6 or 7 months that Will and I have been here, we're better because of Wes, and I'm really grateful that he was here. I think that's interesting. Corey Kispert said he was heartbroken for Wes because he's a really, really good man. Poole said he was thankful to Unseld for helping him adjust after his offseason trade. And that's all really good stuff. I think, it's interesting, though. Like, some of them kind of said that they maybe didn't feel like they were being held accountable enough, I think is sort of how I took the summary of the quotes. I want to say Chase Hughes put this particular quote out. Or actually, it came from Josh Robbins. So shout out to Josh. I think as a whole right now, we're looking at an organizational mindset shift, and that's defense and accountability. And I think those are the first two building blocks that's going to be an emphasis and something we've kind of lacked over the past 40-something games. When you're talking about competitiveness and effort, the number one teacher of that is the bench. So if you're not doing that, if you're not playing for your teammates, if you're not giving it your all, you can come learn on the bench. And I think that's going to resonate. And we have not seen that from Wes, where certain guys have been, basically penalized for lackadaisical effort and things like that. And, Kuzma to some extent has been one of those guys at certain times, but so have all of them. So I like that he's saying that. And I hope that it's applied. And I hope when it's applied to all of them evenly, they all actually still feel that way and want to be held accountable, when it happens to them. But you don't hear that kind of much, like that kind of level of quote after. And that does seem like a reflection on Wes and how they're being managed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Wes had that opportunity, right?
Yeah,
had an option. So, and I can't say he did or didn't, but it looked like he did it because when things are starting to go down the line and your job is getting questioned, and you're going to consider that no matter what. It's going to be you or it comes down to you or them, right? So I don't think he probably had that option.
Yeah, I think
and like the players say, like, I think they like Wes. I think all the players like Wes.
Yep.
So, it is tough to see a coach go that you like, but you also want to win. You also want to be challenged if you're a player. The fact that this coach does have that opportunity and have that option, it seems like he has it out the gate. That's the only way, because that's not a completely new coach. This coach still been around. It's not somebody they don't know.
Yep.
It's not somebody that haven't been sitting right there next to Wes when they haven't been listening to Wes.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like, okay, you see me not listen, right? The same guy seeing me not listen didn't do anything then. What will make him do anything now? What will? Having the option to bench your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Sit me down. Yeah.
Right. So if you don't give him that power, if he doesn't get that power right off the gate, and they understand he has that power, you're gonna get the same thing, because it's not like you got a new guy coming in, laying the law down.
Right.
Like, so now they got to know that that I got free reign to lay the law down from up top. Right. And that's the only way. Keefe is going to even be able to put his touch on the team, his defensive emphasis on the team, his offense, all the things he wants to, implement. It's going to have to be understood. I get to make decisions on who's in that game.
Yeah, I said this on fellow Bulls Forever writer Greg Finberg's podcast. Like, there's a thing in business called like a landmark firing, where you come in and you let somebody go right out of the gate to make an example of everybody else. And if they come back in and just, I don't know, pick an example, Daniel Gafford loafs on defense too many times on one game, and they just say, you know what, your ass is done for the next 2 games. Everybody else is looking around at each other like, oh shit, there really is a new sheriff in town here. And maybe that's just enough to send the message that, like, that's not going to fly anymore. And hopefully he's empowered to do that.
Or a shorter leash.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right. Give him a shorter leash or practice. You know what? I have the option. Okay. Daniel and Bagley switch. Poole, Koulibaly switch, right, in practice. Maybe not in game, but my whole point is, like, yeah, I'm showing you that I can put you on the blue team.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I'm doing it. You probably never been on a blue team any time in your Wizards career.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. No.
Right. I'm gonna let you know now. Just so you know, I got this option in practice.
Yep.
If you don't want to play defense, everything I'm trying to teach in practice right now, my game plan In practice, switch.
Yeah, not gonna fly.
That switch right there, just turning your jersey over
Right.
to the other color.
It means a lot. Yeah.
You don't understand how detrimental that is to a player.
That's a gut punch, right? Like to have to
It's
hear
the
that.
worst. It's embarrassing too.
Yeah. I always talk to my wife about this. She's an elementary school teacher, and I know she can't operate this way. But I'm like, hey, just if kids are acting up, just embarrass the hell out of one of them, and that'll put everybody else on notice. And now she can't do that as a public school teacher, but a professional coach, if you embarrass somebody in front of their peers, that's the quickest way to get their attention. So you saying that that's embarrassing for them, like everyone else is like, shit, I don't want that to happen to me. Like,
but it got to be embarrassing with a piece of crazy to it.
Okay. Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something they wouldn't do, right? Like some people are really prideful about, their character, their reputation.
Sure.
And some people just like, I don't care where we are, and no matter what, I'm gonna act crazy in front of everybody in front of you. Like I'm gonna embarrass you. That right there, okay. Ooh. I don't want to do that because
anything can happen.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So if you're gonna embarrass them, slap the hell out their desk too at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a crazy sound with it.
I love that. No, I mean that's what this group seems like it needs. That's what we've said. I don't know. I hope Winger and Dawkins recognize that. Winger said, we came to the realization that the fellas need to hear a new voice, like we talked about. And that was irrespective of the timing of the coaching change. Dawkins says, we know our energy wasn't always there. We know our competitiveness wasn't always there. Defensively, there were nights that were unacceptable. We think that a fresh voice right here, right now is what we need. And that's refreshing to hear, but I need them to mean it. So what you just talked about, I need Brian Keefe to be empowered to actually do these kinds of things. Okay, if it's a fresh voice, like we need them to hear it too. It can't just be some guy like talking out into the void and they can choose to ignore it still too. So he has to have some teeth behind some of these messages and they need to have his back to do that. And I'm hopeful because it seems like he's their guy. Like they brought him in from this, to this organization. He's got a history and a track record with both of those guys in previous stops. Like they better have his back more than it seemed like, honestly, they had Wes's back.
Yeah, they have to, because the thing I keep hearing is we know that we messed up here. We know we let this happen. We know we let this slide. We know but you still did it.
Yep.
So
yeah. Fix it. It's on you.
And the fact you keep the more that you let slide, the more you saying, all right, well, I'm the culprit too.
Sure.
So it has to be a group. It has to be a group thing to be able to change it, because now everybody we know. Well, now you're going to go and come in and, for lack of a better word, crack the whip. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, yeah, like you're the same person who let it slide all these years. If you keep letting your kid get away with so much, not saying these are kids, I understand these grown men.
Sure.
Just use an analogy. Once you lose your shit, they be like, it's not going to be meaningful because I know I let him get away with this. I know I let him do this.
Yep.
So like you said, it's going to have to come from top down. Look, Jordan Poole, if you're not playing defense, because right now what we're putting in is a defensive mindset, a defensive culture. Mm-hmm. One person slips in that to not be able to set that tone, nothing gets set. Nothing gets implemented for real, no matter how much we push it.
I'm trying to think of which coach said this, and maybe it was Popovich, but somebody said that you can only really lay down the law 4 times, maybe 5 times over the course of an NBA season with players, where you really raise your voice and get mad. And if I were Keefe, I would be pulling one of those right away. Last night on the second night of a back-to-back, okay, it's, let's give him a fair shot here. But the next game, like immediately I would be like, hey, this shit no longer flies. And I would use up one of those bullets like immediately.
I would make them understand what I'm coming in and do.
What the
and
expectations are.
Set the tone and expectations immediately.
Yeah.
But if I come in immediately like that after they know me, I think they think it's an act.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right. I think they think it's an act.
Is there something though to coming in, like when you just switch chairs of like, okay, we didn't get to see this guy like the full range of him now. Like, do you have to treat a guy differently or expect a different personality for him moving down a chair? Like he was kind of fitting into what Wes wanted to do a little bit, but now it's like, oh shit, maybe he had this the whole time, but he couldn't show it before.
You can't step on another coach's toes. You got to you got to do your job. You got to play your role, right?
Yep.
No matter if your offensive schemes are different, defensive schemes are different, you got to support that head coach.
Right.
Right. So you can't undermine him. You know what I'm saying? Right. So even though the players know that coach and they know how he helps them and they don't know how he coaches.
Yeah.
They know how he supports the head coach.
Right.
They don't know how he coaches. Yeah. So how he coaches, how he runs his program can be completely different. I've seen coaches that were assistant coaches, and then they took over as head coaches. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. Yeah.
Right, didn't see that coming. Okay. Oh, right. So it can be that. It just because he comes in and he comes under somebody, it can be worse. It can be better.
Yep.
Right. Right. So now, when you become a head coach, you become more hands-on with the system, not so much with the players.
Okay.
That's what
you're delegating to your assistants.
You're delegating. Hey man, take care of him. Go sit down there with him. Tell him what he's doing wrong. Right. So now you actually have free reign to be more of an asshole. Yeah. You got to.
Because you're a step removed from the personal dynamic.
Right, you're a step removed. So now you're gonna have to call it. You get to now call all the players out that you couldn't before. Imagine the assistant coach calling the player out. You're being sensitive. You're acting like you're not doing this. You're not doing it. You're assistant coach.
Yeah.
Right. Like first of all, they would have to almost get permission from the head coach. Like, look, hey, coach, I don't mean to, step on your toes. I mean, it'd be a speech before the speech.
Right. It's premeditated at that point. Yeah.
Right. So now I get to say how I really feel about this player, if he's not doing his job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So
to me, that's the first thing you do. Okay. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but okay, now that's the first thing you do. It's like you say that 4 times. Call them out.
Yeah.
And you're not doing your job. You're not rotating. You're being lazy on cuts. Call them out in front of everybody. Not, don't lose it, but call them out. Just straight out the gate. I mean, they say the best person who does that is Ty Lue.
I love that. Okay.
And he'll call out anyone from the top. So now the person can get mad, but they can't say it's not true. All right, so now I got it. This coach calls me out on my shit in front of everybody.
Was Ty Lue like that as a teammate? Like, was he a vocal guy about that kind of stuff, or more?
Yeah. He always. But it's how he did it. It was just so much his nature.
Mm-hmm.
Man, your ass ain't getting no on the cut. How he talk. Yeah. But he's such a nice. But he real like
yeah. Nobody took it the wrong way.
No one's like him.
Yeah.
Right. You can take the information and it's real information. He's giving it to you how you want to, but just the type of person he is and the tone of his voice and on everyday life, he talks the same way. And he's a give you a shirt off his back guy. He always cares. you every word that he says, no matter what you add, you automatically add all those other pieces to it.
Right. And you know, with a guy like that, it's not personal, right? Like, he's not trying to, like, he's not doing it just to be an asshole. Like, he means
Right.
it, and he's trying to help you and help the team, so you can take it at face value. Like that. That's important, I
And
think.
he's not even thinking about it.
Right.
He's not thinking about he's not saying, no, I'm gonna do this home. It's not a ploy to make something happen better.
Yeah.
Or it's not a act.
Yep.
He just, with Ty, just straight up, hey, this is what I see. I'm calling you out. I ain't thinking twice about it.
Right.
I'm not doing it to front you out. If we on a teammate, if we in a team, we in the locker room, we talking for real.
I'm picturing that speech from Winning Time where Pat Riley takes over, and in the locker room, he goes one by one, and he's like, Kareem, you haven't been playing hard all year. Norm, you got to stop like clowning out on the court. Hey, Magic, you got your coach fired. Like, just level setting with everybody. And
right out the gate.
yeah, I mean, like, we hear all these combos about guys establishing expectations and roles and responsibilities early, and that seems like that never really happened under the last two coaches until late in the year. I want that to be like Brian Keefe's first thing. Like, Kuz, you are a scorer for us, but I also need you to be a facilitator, rebounder, defender, do it all. Poole, I need you taking good shots and creating looks for other guys also.
And playing defense.
Yeah, well, playing defense too. You know, like, but whatever the list is, like, hey, like, let's put it all out there right now and reset everything. This is what you did before is what you did before, but the last half of the year, this is how shit's gonna go. Like, that has to happen with this team.
Great players don't mind they do mind being called out. But
the right way.
It. But they respect it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and if you and they show up.
Mm-hmm.
They might hate you for calling them out, but they'll show up, right? Yep. And if you go across and just you can't sugarcoat it, call them like cutthroat with everything right out the gate. Mm-hmm. What happens is you create a common goal.
Sure.
Because now everybody mad at you at one time.
Right. Yeah, you rallied the troops against you if you have to. But
sometimes you rallied it against them, but they all NBA players. You don't get to the NBA without being a person who challenges yourself and taking things to heart and, you know, being very competitive. Mm-hmm. So when you get called out, that's competitive nature. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. So now you just set that and you didn't ignited that light into every player.
Yeah. You use the word challenge there. I think challenged is the right word. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you challenge somebody to do something, it's because you have some expectation that they can do it. So it should be something they have to strive and put effort into reaching. And I think that's actually like an encouraging thing. Like, Jordan Poole, I'm challenging you to be an efficient scorer and a defender. Well, I'm saying that because I think you can do it. I wouldn't issue a challenge that, you know, you can't do. So hopefully they take that the right way.
Yeah.
Just on Brian Keefe, he was in Oklahoma City as an assistant coach from 2007 to 2014. So he overlapped with these guys. Again, not an accident. He got added to this staff in the first place. There's been some reporting, like Shams and stuff said, that they always kind of knew Wes probably wouldn't be back after this year anyway. So I think this is like a real opportunity for Keefe to show he gets the job here long term. Some of the stuff they said about him, they clearly think a lot of him. You know, Winger said there's a visceral response to a competitive basketball game and a different visceral response to an uncompetitive game. And they basically said that moving forward under Brian Keefe, I think you'll see more of a defensive mindset. Our main focus for us is going to be to see growth defensively, was Keefe's first real quote. And Keefe, when asked about the competitiveness, said, I think we've got to look in the mirror. We were part of the problem. I addressed that in the beginning. We've got to own that first. We've got to look inward and say, what can I do better? Like, this is literally what we just talking about. He's basically saying he's trying to do that and set those expectations. He said, you'll see some things done differently because we're all different people. You'll see my influences on the team as it grows. That will be discovery in different lineups, different schemes for sure. So one of the big criticisms of Wes Unseld is you've had the same starting five the entire year, basically the same rotation. I think just throw a bunch of different shit against the wall and see what works. And this is a new, fresh opportunity to do some of that.
I don't think you throw a bunch of different shit against the wall.
You know what I mean? Like, Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But if I'm a player and I read all of those things about what the coach is saying,
Mm-hmm.
the main sentence is, I think you're going to see different lineups.
Yeah.
Right.
You
You never heard that before.
Yeah.
Right. So, one thing about it, they trust him. They brought him. The writing was on the wall when all these guys came in. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The new organization. The president, the new president, the new GM. Right. It was understood when they brought Keefe in. It was understood where he was going.
Yep.
Right. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, he was going to get shot. I thought it'd be Vanderpool, but now that I know that Keefe worked with them so long in the past, it's like, okay, this is the real guy.
Mm-hmm. And they brought Vanderpool in for a reason too.
Sure.
Right. So it may anything that happens after they came in, it was part of the scheme of the building that they were already kind of set and understood what they were going, the direction they were going into.
Yep. So,
yeah, I think it's his job to lose.
Yeah.
Right. At this point, because this is a consideration of a head coach right here of what they think they want. He has a lot of experience, great experience under great players, great coaches. And to me, people don't understand starting off as a video coordinator is the best thing you can ever be. When you start off a video coordinator and go into a head coach, because that's such another deeper level of the game that even as a player, even as an assistant, if you haven't, that most people don't understand. Like you've seen everything in every point. You're trying to give the coach so many different idiosyncrasies of the game. And I mean, it's, and so to me, that really right there lets me know, okay, how the depth of him as a coach.
That's an amazing point, and I'm glad you said that because, like, that's the Pat Riley, or not, that's the Eric Spoelstra path. And I heard Ed Tapscott talk about how that's the worst job in the NBA still, and it was way worse, probably when someone Brian Keefe's age was coming up, because it was before synergy and all these things did that for you. Like, it was, like you were sitting there, you were cutting reels of tape and pasting them together and all this shit, like. You're doing that immediately after the game ends as you're getting on flights or like the team is like moving around. Like it's a thankless job and being in the NBA school, but it's not a well-paid job for those dudes either. So you're grinding to try to work your way up the ladder. So that he came up that way, there's a work ethic there. Like this isn't a dude that just got handed the keys to something.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to, every second you're doing that, every second you're grinding, you're taking in so much information.
Yeah.
Now you're searching it out and taking it in. Right. So you're creating this amazing cerebral basketball mind.
Yeah.
Right. Just not even unconsciously.
Yeah. You've seen it all at this point.
You've seen it all.
And doing it. So we're talking about him being a video corner. He did that in San Antonio too. Like you're doing this under Greg Popovich. You're not messing around like that. That's not a freebie job at all.
No. And you better give him exactly what he's looking for. And you better search out new things.
Yep.
That he didn't know what he's looking for, that he wanted.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can't be coming to a guy like that with a bunch of fluff. Like you
can't give him fluff. Right.
That's a very good call. For anyone not familiar with his background, he was a college assistant coach at a couple places, Spurs video coordinator, long-term assistant in Oklahoma City, spent a year with the Knicks, spent a couple years with the Lakers, was most recently with the Nets. That's where we heard all the Kevin Durant, said all this amazing stuff about him and what he did for his development. Durant said something along the lines like, he taught me everything I know, which is obviously crazy, but you don't say that stuff unless you have like the respect of a player like that. And being able to reach that level guy and get, in a short amount of time and earn that respect, it says something about him and his, his ability to influence what they do.
Well, people don't understand that comment from Durant. You can't just overlook that.
Okay.
Reason being is Durant is not just a typical basketball mind.
Sure.
Right? All Durant does is watch basketball.
Yeah. He's a real
wants to
student.
be in the gym.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And do Birder Twitter accounts. Right? So like that's nothing else.
Yeah.
So the level of basketball mind that Durant is compared to the average player or even some of the good ones, for you to really, really be able to help him out, you can't just be just one of those you can't be any coach, because you have to actually wake him up to something he doesn't know.
Yeah,
you have to show him something he don't know. You have to open a new portal that he hasn't seen yet, and he's seen a lot of.
Yeah. Otherwise, a guy like that's just gonna be like, yeah, okay, cool, this guy again. Yeah.
So people don't really understand how strong that statement is. People who understand, like coaches and players, and people who really understand Durant and know like the high IQ, cerebral genius that he is in this game. That's who said that about that coach.
Yep. No, that's honestly, that's really cool. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Like there's nothing gained for KD to go out and just say that just to say that. Like his reputation's on the line too. If you do that and the guy is just like a bust and he doesn't work hard, it's like, what is Kevin Durant talking about?
Right.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So part of this is just, we heard a lot of great things about Wes, the person, and the basketball mind. And then we talked about just needing a different voice. But I also wonder to some extent if he had kind of lost the locker room or certain key people in the locker room. You heard that quote about Kuzma about accountability, but there's also this quote, and shout out to my guy Faisal for making me aware of this. It was a Stephen A. Smith quote where he said, Jordan Poole has been, quote, an absolute disaster inside of that locker room. He's got to have an attitude readjustment because he's got a bad reputation so far. If can one guy just like popping off in the locker room and like being a distraction, does that lose credibility? Like, can a coach lose credibility with the other players if he doesn't nip that in the bud?
Yeah, instantly.
Yeah.
And it's not. First of all, we can't act like we're surprised about Stephen A's quote, what he said. I mean, I sent you some video of Jordan.
That's
right?
Yep.
Jordan.
Him on the bench, and
everybody sees that.
Yeah.
If he's doing that on the bench, imagine now the locker room is behind closed doors.
Right. Yeah.
As players, we know a lot of things that happen in the locker room we'll never say. Sure. Right. I've seen coaches and players getting physical fights in the locker room, come out and act like nothing happened.
And we heard that happen in a locker room where Wes Unseld was the coach also 2 seasons ago. So
yeah. So in that case, if we seeing this version of Poole outside the locker room, he could possibly be an absolute Dennis the Menace inside, which becomes like just a straight nuisance. Which what happens in that type of situation, that becomes a cancer.
Yeah,
it grows. Even if other players saying, "Okay, I'm not that type of player. I'm not like him. I'm not going to do that." First of all, you're getting young players come in.
Sure.
You're getting Koulibaly that started off really hot and seemed like he just lost motivation. You're now getting 2 points a game, 1 rebound.
Right.
Like, we just saw you. Like, he's probably disappointed that, damn, this is the NBA?
Right.
Because
guys act like this here? Yeah.
Right. Because all of that can be an effect of one person that just acting a damn fool. That's in the locker room.
Yep.
Uncontrollable. Like, so honestly, until they handle that situation, they can only do so much. They can only be so good. They can only grow so much. Right? No matter what it is. And the biggest thing is most of it cannot come from the coaching staff.
And you need a strong veteran guy to be
It
like,
got to
hey.
come within the players.
Yeah.
Right? Like Golden State, for instance. He was trying that shit over Golden State over and over again, right? You know, and I heard different stories about the situation. Draymond was already on the edge. It had nothing to do with Poole, and it was, you know, heard that it was a pickup game that happened, you know, and they was killing them, and you know, Poole was talking
a little bit,
and they were telling Poole talk some trash, and you know, but in the end of the day, you didn't create this.
right?
Like, you didn't create this. You're not great coming try to. You're not infiltrating this, or like, you got to earn everything with this. So if you come in here with an attitude of, oh, I'm the man now, I own this, about
it's my team, yeah.
Like, and especially with how his personality is, how his kind of like you say, like what they're saying, how he acting now. And everybody and all your teammates just sit back and be like, let you do it. Oh man, it's okay, calm down. Yeah. Nah, man. It's going down. Cut that shit out. We trying to win. We professionals. We're men. We're players.
Who's the guy on this roster to do that?
Like nobody. You don't have that guy.
Yeah. That's where I was hoping.
And if it was it has to be Kuzma, or it has to be Gafford.
Okay, I like that.
Those are two guys that needs to set it straight.
Yeah. Kuzma's the one I was thinking of, and he just doesn't seem to have that kind of temperament. Like, he's like, oh, okay, you know, everything's cool kind of guy. Like, oh, well, I'm doing my part. And he's kind of saying the quiet part out loud about guys, if they're not doing the right stuff, should be held accountable. And I mean, I can only guess who that's aimed at, because it doesn't seem like they F with each other too much. But,
no, you don't.
You know, you need somebody.
But you got to set that tone right away. I mean, last thing you want to do is get in trouble like Draymond did. It ain't the first time that shit happened in the locker room.
Right.
Make sure ain't no cameras around.
Yeah. There's also a way to do it, right? Like, you don't have to pop him in the face, but
no, well, shit.
Maybe you do. I don't know.
That ain't rare.
Yeah, sure.
That's not a rare occasion in basketball. It just happened to be on camera.
Yeah.
And what was bad about it was a vet with a young player, much younger player.
Sure.
So you're gonna try first. First. But now, if this is how he's acting, you got it. What's the other option you got? Kuzma. I hate to say it, man, but this is look around cameras. I'm gonna do it in front of people and my teammates. Set this shit straight.
Yeah. Yeah. Push them up against the locker or something. You know.
Now can we move on?
Yeah.
Right. Soon you start that shit up, man. This ain't the place.
It becomes a little bit of like if you know, those in glass houses can't throw stones thing, though, because really none of them are doing this shit anymore. I mean, like, maybe early in the year you could have said that, but Kuzma's chucking a little bit more now. Yeah, the defense isn't the same. Like, he's probably the only one with the cachet to do it, to your point. Or maybe somebody like Gafford. You know, I wouldn't fuck with Gafford. You know, like, he's from like the country. Like, he seemed like he would be country strong to begin with too.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't want to run afoul of him, but he's also like a genuinely very nice guy. So you need, like, but we've talked about this so many times, but like, I love that they love Anthony Gill, the vet, but he's not coming in there and like cracking any skulls, you know, like, he's not Charles Oakleying anybody off the bench. It's just,
you need a Gary Payton.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Gary Payton types, the Vernon Maxwell's, you know.
Does that exist in the NBA anymore, though? I think that's why
sure.
Udonis has
I'm
one.
sure. I bet if you took a kid from New York, the Knicks.
Jalen Brunson.
Nope. The main leading scorer.
Oh, Julius Randle.
Put Julius Randle in that locker room.
I wouldn't mess with him.
Something would change. Bet Poole would change.
All right.
Julius Randle gonna sit there quiet and not say nothing, just watch him for a while. And if something gonna happen, he gonna just like, look, man, shut the fuck up.
But
He was like, I said, shut up.
If Draymond doesn't get through to him after that amount of time, are any of these guys, or do you just need him to like mature at some point? And I think that's where the look inward quote is probably coming from too. Like there's got to be some self-realization that, oh shit, I might be the problem here. I'm not saying Poole is the only problem, so Poole fans just chill out. I don't need any more shit from Stan groups this year.
The big problem with Poole is you paid him.
He's a $30 million guy. You expect more.
You paid him, and what happens is when you give somebody money,
you've empowered them.
It don't really change you. What it does is just make you more of the person you already were.
Right.
Yeah. So if you were an asshole nuisance, it's gonna become more of that.
Yeah, we've emboldened you to double down on that behavior.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the issue. And now he knows no matter what, I got this. But what about your future? What about you being a professional? What about, you being a pro, right? What about you belonging here? What about you want to prove, you mess around, just be a journeyman, a high-paid journeyman.
Yeah. I think he's honestly, like, he's still young, but the dude's at a crossroads of how his career plays out. Like, really, like, at this moment, the next 40 games might be as big for him as anyone on the roster. And how everyone looks at you for the rest of your career. Not that he can't change it later, but this is big, especially when some of these other guys move on. If a Kuzma's traded or a Gafford's traded, like there's going to be even more attention on Poole and how he plays the rest of the year. He's not going anywhere, I wouldn't think. So what happens from here on out, it's going to say a lot about him.
Yeah, I agree.
Good.
So since Keefe is a new coach, Wes is gone.
Yeah.
So they put Mike Miller in that missing seat on the bench?
That's a great question, and I do not know the answer to who got sort of moved up.
I've heard it was definitely Mike Miller that's moving from behind the bench on the bench, right?
It makes sense. Yeah.
And I guess my question is, Mike Miller. I remember, as a player, right? Went to Florida, right?
It's not that Mike Miller.
It's not that Mike Miller?
Different Mike Miller. Yeah. He's older. He was with the Knicks as an assistant for a while. I thought the same thing.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, man, does he?
That Mike Miller is a player agent right now for like people like Paulo Banchero and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is
that's kind of cool. Okay.
Also was an interesting career shift. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, and I was reading with that Mike Miller. He just finished being a high school coach, coaching his kids.
Yep.
And I'm like, so the Wizards now just put him right behind on the bench? I'm like, you got James Posey over there?
right, exactly.
And I'm like, scratching my head like, yo, what move is this? But now I know it's a different Mike Miller. Okay.
Yeah, this guy is like, I don't know, probably 60 years old, a short white guy, and he was like a backup assistant coach, or not backups. He was an assistant coach with the Knicks at some point here, and that's kind of all I remember about his background. Posey, I'm glad you said that, though, because that's the dude from day one I really thought would have a lot more involvement here. And I think he's the right guy. Maybe he doesn't have the temperament for it, but as a player, like, you want some of James Posey, the player, to rub off on some of these guys.
Yeah. To me, I'm like, well, why hasn't Posey been the guy to come behind the bench and actually be on the bench? That's, to me, your main guy you want on the bench.
I think so.
Especially now he can have more of a voice. And I think he's pretty much probably the best voice for Poole.
Yeah, right. I like that, honestly. Here's what you can do. Here's some tricks from me that you can apply that would work for you. And here's how all the other, like, he played with all the dudes that Poole's trying to be, and he could share that. Or he's guarded all those guys too.
Right, but it also got to be a respect factor, right? Posey, good guy, very smart, but from Cleveland. Mm-hmm. So, in the end of the day, like, it's a respect thing. Like, Poole is, I'm gonna give you what you need. I'm gonna bring you along. Mm-hmm. but I might do it with a little bit of, lean on me, Joe Jackson, Coach Carter.
Yeah.
Like, to me, Posey can be the person be like, look, man, we ain't playing that around here.
You need that so much on this team more than anything.
Right. So Posey can be that guy, like, like be that, I don't want to say Charles Oakley, but be the serious guy.
Yeah.
Don't cross me.
Right. That's
I'm
not
gonna help you out, but don't cross me.
Yeah. I'm with you. So I've got a couple names for you here. Let's just say, I think we both think Keefe has got a really strong chance of keeping this job, but let's say it's not him and they go external. And what type of head coach would you like to see? We've talked about like Jerry Stackhouse before as a name. I've got a couple other interesting names, I think, and a few of them are former Wizards, and I wanted to see your reaction to these names. So the first one I've got is Caron Butler. Caron is an assistant in Miami. If your nickname's Tough Juice, like, it's not an accident. Like, dude's not taking shit from people. He's got experience on a bench. He could bring in Heat culture. Do you think, like, I don't know, you've probably been around him more than I have. Do you think Caron Butler could be a guy to kind of come in and impart some of those things we're talking about here?
All right, question first.
Sure.
With the current players we have now.
Yeah.
No one's moved, no new player coming in. With the current players we have now.
Yep.
I think Caron Butler would be really good with them.
Okay.
Right? I think he'd be really good with him. We just need a hard-nosed player, too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because no matter how hard-nosed the coach is, you got to have somebody from that world that in the locker room.
Sure.
So even with a good, okay, we'll go down the coach's line. We need a tough person in that locker room.
Like a tough former player of some cachet.
Like somebody who, like, even a good player, respectable tough player.
Right, exactly.
Right, that's currently in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that won't take nothing. Like all right, this is a hard-nosed tough player. Like you cross him, we might have to go. We might have to square up in the in the locker room on a logo.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, once you got that, then you can also have a tough coach, because you can bring in Caron Butler, and I think Caron Butler will make an impact.
Yeah,
especially with the right assistants.
Yep. Or even, I mean, he's a couple guys down the bench in Miami, from what I remember too. Could you give the guy a raise to come here and be your top assistant?
True, but you're the person that everything still has to pipeline through, no matter who you bring in.
Sure.
The first person that everything pipes line through,
head coach,
is Kuzma.
Okay. Just as the guy on the team. Right?
As the guy.
Yeah.
And no matter what, no matter what, like, your top buy-in guy has to be Kuzma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then it pipes line through. Like, no matter what you do, right? Because he's the leader. He's gonna be your leader.
Mm-hmm.
Your team leader, right? The one that everybody should be listening to. Everybody, right? Yeah. When you got your team leader as a Giannis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. That dictates a lot. Yeah.
Right. Get what I'm saying?
No, I do. Yeah.
So I don't know. My whole point is that's your top. It's Kuzma.
Mm-hmm. It makes it tough if he's wired.
It's always going to be how much he's willing to run through the wall and take up for a teammate.
Right. Or respond to a head coach, right? Like, if he's not bought in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it tough. Okay, next name I got for you here, and this person is now publicly campaigning for the job on his own TV show. Gilbert Arenas said he would be willing to come in and take the job for 3 years, $3 total million. He'd work on a budget, essentially. To me, this is a never going to happen scenario, because Ted will never walk it back with the gun stuff, and they barely let him talk when he came back the one time. But it is interesting to me, at least. Do you think Gilbert could have any sort of positive impact on someone like Poole? Like, we heard some of those comparisons, especially when Poole got traded here. Could he be the next Gilbert? Like, could he take that kind of leap? Both coming from Golden State. Like, I think it could either go kind of right or really, really wrong potentially.
Gilbert would be to me like Wes,
Okay.
right? Wes has all the right information, right? Whatever Gilbert says to Poole, whatever defensive rotations Gilbert make, whatever substitutions he make, whatever offense he may put in, it most likely it may be the perfect thing. It's just the messenger.
Right. When you've shit in a teammate's shoe, I don't know how people can take you too seriously, even 15 years later.
Right. Like Gilbert would have to be behind the scenes, being a consultant, passing all the information through the pipeline.
I kind of like that as an idea. Like the way they brought in Gortat to show Gafford how to set screens. Could you just have Gil come in on a limited basis and just sit with Poole one-on-one and be like, hey, man, here's where you can go if you do X, Y, and Z?
Even that.
That's too much.
Still, the thing about Gil is he's a big media personality. Yeah. You know exactly what type of media personality he is. Even if you don't know Gil personally like I do, you feel like you do know him personally. You feel like, and now let me sit down with you and really talk. The problem is it's hard to, even though the things he say is most times right on track with Gil. I mean, I'm an avid Gil listener. I listen to Gil on all his shows because if you hear what he's saying, you're like, damn, right?
Yep.
Good information. I didn't think of it like that. Oh, okay. All right. He's a great basketball mind.
Other than the Jokic hating, I'm not. Yeah. But some of it is you gotta get clicks too.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, he's all about the hot takes.
Yeah.
He's a hot taker. Yeah. That's his thing, saying off the wall hot takes.
Yeah.
But he's just the wrong person to give that information, especially for a guy like Poole.
Yeah.
You need a guy that's serious, more serious.
All right. So good segue here. I got one for you. I teased this the other day. I think this would, at least old Wizards would have been like the most likely guy I think they would have considered. And the timing might just happen to be right. There happens to be a former Bullet / former Wizard who is coaching college basketball right now. He's a serious dude for the most part. It seems like his tenure at his current coaching job might be near an end. Not Jerry Stackhouse this time. I'm talking Juwan Howard.
I figured that.
I feel like Juwan's been around the NBA long enough. He's been the boss. He's coached young men. You hear somebody like Hunter Dickinson talk about Juwan, and even after transferring, he would still run headfirst through a wall for Juwan. The problem is there's been some weird, just like crazy shit that's happened at Michigan. Him slapping at another team's assistant, trying to fight another head coach, get into a screaming match with his own strength coach, suspending a player just on the road but not at home. Like the weirdest things I've ever heard in college basketball in the last couple of years have all happened under Juwan. But he seems like the kind of guy the Wizards would want, like would consider, like before the West move, I even thought it would be a thing. So he's not been bad enough to fire. Michigan's not going to fire him with the Fab Five coming back. His second kid is about to leave Michigan. It seems like it might be time for him to transition back to the NBA. That's kind of the rumblings. Do you think there's a world where Juwan would be on their short list of guys that they would give at least a call to or an interview to?
I think so. Juwan would be. I think Juwan really would be. See, Juwan is really a good coach because I've seen Juwan always as a team captain. The entire time I've been there, I've seen how he is as a team captain.
Yeah.
Juwan's the nicest guy, biggest smile, makes you feel like family.
Yeah.
Like he treats everyone like family. But also Juwan is a motherfucker.
Yeah, you're not gonna push too many buttons with him, right?
And which completely doesn't look like it. He never looks like it. So like a Poole, and he don't. And if he get tired of you and stop dealing with you, it's Juwan from Chicago. In the day, Juwan is from Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, through and through, he's really good at cleaning up the Chicago-ness. But it's not that far away from the surface.
Yeah.
And that's why I love about Juwan. Like, in the end of the day, that Chicago sits about right here. You know, so it's not that far from it, you know, and it stays right there. So I think Juwan, and he would have to be a head coach.
Yeah, you come in.
He would have to be a coach. I think Juwan would be good. He would be great for Kuzma too, right? Because Juwan wants to. His mindset is a winner. He wants to be a winner, right? He wants to install a winner mindset, a fighter mindset. You know, so yeah, Juwan would be really good for him.
If you're willing to slap the hell out of another team's coach because he said something to you in the line,
to slap one of the kids. He'll slap, and these grown men too.
Yeah, right.
These not college kids. These grown men.
Yeah.
Problem is, they ain't really. Nah, these grown men too. Yeah. See, Juwan be like, look, man, you know what? What you want? I said go here. You don't go there and cut and play defense on that screen. Next time you don't do that, I'm whooping your ass.
Doesn't that sound like what we're talking about, though? Like the kind of,
and I'm not keep on condoning this shit, but in the end of the day, man, these are grown men, and some of them need it.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Because otherwise, what's left?
Yep.
These young men, though. These young men, and some of them need it. Or you can say, or you can, you know, and Juwan would also, his respect is more important than anything. So he'd be like, look, man, look, I'm sitting this dude. I don't care how much you get paid.
He's got the cash.
And either him or me or whatever. But I'm letting you know I'm sitting him and he ain't getting off as long as I'm out here. I don't care what you do.
Yep.
So now you can either let me make him better and let me make him into a professional and the player you want, or I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do it, you know.
He's got enough ties to the organization that you know that he's not going to get fired right away, which is one. Yeah. And he could make those kinds of changes, I think, with enough credibility that because a lot of times I think players sometimes will think like, I can outlast this guy. I make 4 times as much money as him. Like it's him or me. They're going to pick me. But Juwan might just have enough there that like he can do that kind of shit and guys would take it. And he was a good enough player to get away with it. He's a popular enough coach. You got a little bit of the Fab Five legacy. Like there's some swagger to it. It is just, I mentioned some of the weird shit that's happened at Michigan, I think might scare some people away, but
it's going to be weird shit that happened. I mean, Juwan, he snap on, he snaps, you know, like, you know, sometimes, you know, like in the end of the day, it's like just that man thing come out, you know, and it's just, I'm just not dealing with that. Right, it's
no bullshit. Might be just
what this. At the end of the day, I don't care how corporate we have to be. Nah, bro. Like in the end,
I'll roll up my sleeves and I'll fight you if I got it.
No, this man now it's about being a man. It's about respect. It's about like you trying to play me or you on some bullshit or you talking to me a certain way or right the things that you know a lot of people have to let pass. You know. Most guys, like certain people, just like, in the end of the day, I'm a man.
Yep.
Not only in the day I'm a man, I'm the man who's running this stuff right here.
I just don't see many guys sitting on the bench and yelling back at him or tuning out and totally ignoring him and then saying, what did he say? What was the play? Like, you're not going to do that with Juwan very long.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm necessarily advocating for him to be the guy, but it just seems like a kind of guy that the Wizards we know of would at the very least make a call to. And if he's going to make a transition back to the NBA, now
Juwan also is a call you out guy too.
Yeah. This group seems like they might need some of that.
Yeah.
So,
he's a call you out guy that actually likes calling you out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the accountability piece. That would change.
Yeah.
The other name I got on here, not a former Wizard, but a former NBA player who's gained some prominence in the media, is JJ Redick. That's a guy that's been, he was rumored for the Raptors job last year, but he didn't want to move that far from home. He could still stay in Brooklyn. I think he's got the respect of this generation of players just from how he handles himself and helps them sort of tell their own stories and things like that. So I think they feel like they would be well represented by a guy like JJ. I don't necessarily like the idea of a dude with no coaching experience coming in
Yeah.
to take over this particular group. Like maybe more veteran guys that would go over a little differently, but he obviously knows the game at a pretty technical, deep level. So I don't know. Like, could it be another Steve Nash situation where maybe that doesn't necessarily work out? I don't know, but thoughts on JJ?
I see why you picked him. I see why you like him. I mean, like you say, he knows the game. He's a very analytical type basketball. You don't usually get a former basketball player that's very analytical, right? He's both, and then he's also no nonsense.
Yeah.
Right. So it's so many facets, right, that JJ Redick would be good at.
He's also from Virginia.
What I would be concerned about with JJ Redick is, does he understand creativity?
Okay. Like, yeah, breaking the structure every once in a while for a guy like Kuzma or Poole and that kind of.
Yeah, because would it be too systematic?
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So that's be my question and my only like worry with the creativity and growth, especially of young players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, would that probably kind of be like stifled a little bit?
Yeah, I think he makes sense as an NBA coach somewhere, just not for this group particularly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it is from Virginia. We're about to be the Virginia Wizards, so maybe that's something that's appealing to Ted. You never know.
That's what they're going to change the name to.
I don't know, man. You never know.
The Virginia Wizards.
I think they'll change it to the District Wizards before they do that. Everything they're pushing is about the district.
Yeah, everything is district now, right?
Gotta lean into the district now that we're moving out.
I used to see district everywhere. Now I'm like, oh, okay, I see. I see what they did.
Yeah, not a coincidence.
No, it's not a coincidence at all.
Speaking of the Wizards, I gotta get one thing off my chest here before we get out of here. They recently announced that well, I guess they didn't announce. The person announced that their media credential had been revoked because of their literal one tweet about a billboard. It's Neil Dalal of Hoop District. I have a lot of respect for Neil. He's been covering the team longer than anybody, and like genuinely the longest tenured person in the locker room. And he's doing this not as a full-time job. He's providing really good coverage and insight and access to people as a side gig. This team should be bending over backwards to celebrate people like that are willing to promote them for free, essentially. And instead, rather than, hey, we didn't like the one tweet or working it out with him or issuing a retraction or any of this kind of stuff, they chose to take his media credential back from him. And I think that's just really bad form from a Wizards team that, you know, they've done some shady stuff to this podcast in the past and other outlets that where you just kind of question the decision making. It's almost like you're middle fingering fans, and that's at the end of the day what the vast majority of us are. It's a bad look. Like if you're saying, hey, if you tweet stuff we don't like, we won't give you access. You're basically promoting the idea of wanting propaganda only. And when you own your own media network, you're already giving that impression. So it's now basically anybody that says anything counter to supporting us and exactly what we do is no longer allowed here. And I can't imagine that that's a good thing for any franchise. Like I saw this firsthand doing some media stuff for the flagship radio station of the former Washington Redskins, now Washington Commanders, where someone said something anti-Dan Snyder on air and got fired during a commercial break. And they got panned for that. You've seen how stupid this looks and how much fans don't like that. I don't know why you would follow suit with these kinds of things. Now, granted, that was an employee. No one from Monumental is going to go on air and say a bunch of like real negative stuff about them. It's just not going to happen. But you're now basically silencing people. And you're telling everyone else, hey, if we'll get rid of Neil, who's been doing this for forever, for saying something even mildly anti-us or something we don't like, you're putting everyone else on notice that they shouldn't do it either. So now you're basically threatening them without threatening them that if you say stuff we don't like or you criticize us, we can kick you out. And that shouldn't be allowed to stand. I hope they make it right. I hope people are pissed about this. I'm pissed about it. It just, I don't know, if I were a player, I would want different coverage and different perspective of me as well. But it can't just be this cookie cutter. Oh, well, the team, we can't mention their record. We can't say they're bad at defense. Let's talk about how Tyus Jones had an amazing night last night where he amassed 3 assists. Like, just get the fuck out of here with that kind of wording. I'm just tired, Jahadi. Like, just they haven't been good. When you're this bad for this long, you should just literally be sending him a care package at the end of the year that he wants to do this shit and still promote your team in the way that he has. So I just need to get that rant off. So thank you for letting me do that.
What was the article and what was it about?
They the Wizards themselves put up a billboard that did not have their starting point guard on it, and Neil called attention to that. And Tyus Jones responded and reacted to it, and I think the Wizards were embarrassed that it was brought, to his attention that he wasn't on the billboard. That's the only thing I can think of happened here, and it sounds like that was too much for them. It's literally their own fault. So rather than just say, "Oh, whoops, sorry, Tyus, you got traded here too late for us to put you on the billboard," or whatever, or you're with your contract situation expiring at the end of the year, we didn't want to put you on this billboard because we're cheap and we want to use it for multiple years. Whatever it is, rather than handle that shit internally, they took it out on someone for making a simple observation that, by the way, a lot of us saw and thought the exact same thing. So Tyus is an idiot. That's a Duke guy. He's a smart guy. I'm sure as soon as he saw it, he was like, "What the shit are they doing?" But that's it. It wasn't even that critical. It wasn't the Wizards are stupid. They shouldn't do this. He didn't blast them. It's just one observation. And that's crazy to me. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But I doubt anyone from Monumental is listening to this. But if they are, they should be embarrassed. It just
hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it gets better. I mean, it's journalism. It's media.
Right.
You got to have all angles, all facets, good,
Yep.
bad. And believe it or not, as players, we look for the bad. We need it.
Yeah, it's
we
fuel,
need it
right?
as fuel. Yeah. We use it as fuel for us.
Yep.
And if it becomes a media dictatorship to where it's only what becomes allowed, mm-hmm. I think it ends up hurting sometimes the players more than it can help the players too. Yep. Like we hate when things are that's written about us wrong, bad.
Sure.
But like I say, we competitive. We need challenges. We need fuel. We need haters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
You're not doing good until you get somebody writing bad about you.
Yep, that's true.
Right, and then you need the fuel to somebody writing bad about you. I mean, who knows? Tyreke Halliburton may never have been an all-star.
Yeah.
Right. If it wasn't for the
Wally
other basketball player, Wally Zerbiak. You know me with names.
No, I'm with you. That's one I thought of too. So I had it in my mind already.
So without Wally Zerbiak, we might not have an amazing player like Tyrese Halliburton.
Yep.
So it's the fuel. So does Tyreke may not like Wally Zerbiak? I bet you he's glad that in some part, he's glad that Zerbiak did that. He needed it. He in some weird universe, he like, hey, keep on writing bad for him. Please, Wally. Please keep saying bad things about him.
Yeah. And when Wally Zerbiak called one of those games, you got Tyrese Halliburton looking at him and waving at him as he goes by. Like, that's more clicks, that's more eyes on them.
Yeah.
The worst thing you want as a player, I would think, is to just feel like you're irrelevant and you're in a media desert. And if you're the Wizards, if all of your media is team owned, or you shut up everybody else, eventually people are going to stop saying stuff about your team, period, because there's nothing really good to say right now. And I just wouldn't want to go somewhere where, especially if I were like a fringe guy, like if you're Kuzma or Poole, someone's always going to talk about you at some level. But if I'm DeLon Wright, no one has talked about me at a national level in the 2.5 years I've been here or whatever. Like, no one's talking about you locally. So it's just, I would want as many outlets as I can, trying to provide as much coverage as I can, providing as many platforms for my players as I can, because that's good for me. That's good for the players. That's good for their bottom lines. It's good for their pockets. And now you're just basically encouraging like people to just sort of like, whoa, okay. I don't even want to reach out to have a player on because I'm afraid I'll get yelled at. It's very short-sighted in my opinion, and especially in a year where you've announced you're going to relocate the team out of the city and you've pissed a certain amount of people off anyway. I wouldn't be offending a media outlet, and I don't mean this as any criticism of Neil. I really like him, but he doesn't say negative shit about the team. Like, he just doesn't. Like, he's a positive dude for the most part. Like, he'll say something funny or make an observation or whatever, but he's not trashing them. He's not a negative person. So if that's the dude you're getting rid of, it's idiotic. So anyway, kind of my rant over. I just want to touch on one thing here real quick before we leave. Marvin Bagley, been pretty good. And I think you said it as soon as they traded for him. This is a dude you wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the better, more productive bigs in the league. And at the very least, if he was at least challenging for a starting spot here pretty soon. So that's a pretty good prediction, partner. He's looking good so far. He had another really good game again last night. His Wizards debut was 20 points and 11 rebounds. Last night, he had another really good game here. I had the stats somewhere.
It was 14 last night.
Yeah, 14. I mean, like the night before that, he had 17 and 14. Mm-hmm. This is a dude. We got a piece, and that's exciting.
Well, it's good to see that he brings the same element as far as like you don't get a drop off. You don't get a drop off in rebounding. Mm-hmm. You actually kind of get more scoring.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Mm-hmm. When Gafford. Not as much rim protection, right? He's not much of he doesn't stretch as far and doesn't jump as high. Mm-hmm. And right now, what I'm seeing with him, he's bringing an energy. I'm seeing a different Kuzma because of Bagley, and more than anybody, I'm seeing a different Kuzma because of Bagley. Like, I'm seeing a Kuzma that's now more vibrant, running, aggressive. Right.
Yep.
When Brad Bagley came in, every since I'm seeing a Kuzma that's more everywhere. Right. Yep. Bagley's bringing a sense of just energy. He's going up and down. He's running up and down the floor real fast, being everywhere. And most of his points are coming because of the effort and energy that he's bringing. Mm. So I'm just hoping that effort and energy continues. He got fresh legs. He didn't play a lot. Right. So
the effort has been huge. That's been the most noticeable thing.
I just hope that's real. That effort is sustainable. Yeah. I hope the effort is sustainable, and if so, we can always depend on Bagley. After a month, or so, and the effort start going down, I'm like, because guys get on new teams and
you see a surge
efforts off the roof. Yeah. And then you say, okay, well, let me wait for a month. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to give him let me wait a month type of. Right. I don't want to put that on his back.
Sure.
But I just know. Yeah. So I'm just seeing if that effort can be sustainable, it probably was a great move that we made.
Yep.
Because so far it looks like a great move. Hasn't changed in the wins and losses category yet, and I don't think just that one move would do that.
Right.
Because I still think I'm watching his defense too. His defense can be something to be desired. Mm-hmm. But still, we're not losing. We're actually gaining offensive rebounds, gaining defensive rebounds more than we were. That's something we desperately needed. Mm-hmm. He's putting buckets in the basket, and he's bringing a level of energy that we didn't have as a team before he came.
Even when Gafford played well, and even in the better Gallinari, Muscala games, it was still just a drop off in terms of energy and athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, like he's a different player, which is probably good. You can use them situationally and move. They're not totally interchangeable, but you can kind of like ride with the guy who makes the most sense on a given night and not see a big drop off. And I'm with you. I want to see more, but everything we've seen so far, I think, is encouraging at least.
Yep.
All right, partner. I think that's all I got here for you today. Anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, man. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. It's one of my favorite ones we've seen, and I'm excited about one of my favorite ones we've done here. I'm excited to see how Brian Keefe looks and just any changes they make. I think just doing some different stuff will maybe kind of re-energize some fans and get people to tune back in here for a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. I like the changes already. It likes the feel of the changes. I like that we got Bagley. We now have a new head coach.
Yep.
It feels like we're trying to at least make an effort to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Like it was getting stale. 40 games of that was tough.
Yes.
And just mix things up a little bit here. Just want to throw a shout out to Bolts PR. He asked for a shout out here on Twitter. I like to be a man of the people. So there we go. All right, everybody.
Hopefully Keefe can really get Koulibaly back running and going. I hate to see how he's performing right now. It seems like a kid like that can't lose hope and I don't like his numbers, but at the same time, it's not like he's been a professional before. Mm-hmm. So it's just as much as on him as it is on the coaches too. It has to be on him to produce more as well, because especially you being the only untouchable player, like the hell you put, like you can't put those numbers up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's on you too. It's on him too, man.
I think as fans we become like body language doctors too much sometimes. So you guys know how to read those signs from your peers more than we do. But
it's a job. He was a professional before he came over here. He understands it's a job.
He looks more tentative and timid, right? Like that's not just us imagining that.
Man, play ball.
Yeah, you think it too much.
Play ball.
Maybe. Yeah. That'll be the interesting one to see. Well, we can maybe see a couple games. By the time we do this next, we'll have seen a couple games of the Keefe regime and see if that changes things a lot. So stay tuned, everybody. All right, everybody. You know how we do here. Hit that little like button for us on the YouTube stream. We really appreciate that. It's always nice. Rate, review, subscribe. We are presented by betonline.ag, and we will catch you all next time.